Okay.
You're turning me right. So we're back to
the bars.
Back to the
Different
balls.
ways that you can get balls
back
there.
to the creation of the
Right.
universe.
I'm with you. Okay, so here, I always ask the question. So if we see a hovering ball that's expanding in any area, so we're walking in the speaker's corner, what would we say about this hovering ball?
I'd wonder why it was expanding. Who created it?
Okay, good, excellent. So here I would ask the question, the universe is an expanding ball, yeah?
You're saying that, yeah.
If you accept the idea of redshift and expanding universe, the Big Bang Theory, and the second law of thermodynamics...
I think you can accept the Big Bang Theory without accepting the expansion of the universe theory, but yeah, go on.
How?
No, go on. You continue.
Oh, okay.
I want to hear the end of the story.
Okay. So if that's what we accept, yeah? So the question would be, okay, so we've got a ball that's expanding, which is the universe. It has a cause. Now with the process of deduction and inference, let's try and see what is the nature of the cause.
History, yeah? Okay.
Yeah? History. So what is the nature of the cause?
What is causing that to expand?
What is causing that ball to be even in the first place? Okay, science, yeah?
Yeah.
What is science?
Science is the combination of the gases, particles, molecules that go to make up the world that created the Big Bang and are causing the expansion of the universe.
Do you agree that science is applicable to the 3D world that we live in, the universe that we live in? So
I feel like this is a trick question, but I'm going to say yes.
So for instance, like that we live in a universe, right?
We do.
And this universe, I would say that, I don't know who defined it thus, but I think this is a very good definition. Science is the study of the patterns and regularities of the universe.
Yes.
That's not my definition.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I feel like I'm walking through the trap here.
No. All right.
I'm just trying to avoid it.
Right. So if we're talking about pre-Big Bang, we're not talking about the universe.
Why not?
Pardon?
Why not?
No, we're not, because the universe is a human construct.
No, because the pre-Big Bang.
We created the idea of a universe, and we don't know what was out there before the Big Bang.
Right, but if we're saying that the Big Bang, the singularity, led to the expanding universe that exists now, then naturally that which came before the Big Bang was not within the context of the universe.
No, but it could have been something else. Like we've just found out in geography that I always thought like plates, the plates move because of convection cars. I've been teaching that for 15 years. Now they think it's something called slab pull and ridge push. So all I've been teaching has been wrong because science has finally caught up with us as humans and what we're trying to investigate. So I feel that there probably was something before the Big Bang, before our concept of the universe that was out there. But why is that necessarily a higher being? Why is that not just
because first and foremost, I feel like you've given agency to science. Science is not something that is; it's something you do.
Oh no! Science is something that is. It's not something.
Okay, go on.
The study of science is something you do.
Yeah.
But all the different concepts of science are what's happening right around you.
Right, accepted. Yeah, agreed.
So that's not agency to science. That's
Right. But science is not a willed being that causes things to be.
No, it's an overarching term.
It's a study,
for all
isn't
the
it?
processes that cause things to be.
Okay, good. So science is how we science is how we see, right? The universe and how we kind of how we see the patterns of the universe.
Yeah.
And we can break it down to like physics, chemistry, and biology, etc.
And break it even further.
Even down. Okay, good. So from that perspective, what I would say to you is that when we talk about the cause of the universe, we're talking about, would you agree that we would talk about a will of some sorts?
A will? No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't agree.
Why?
Because I don't think there is a will behind chaos.
Would you accept?
I agree there's no random in chaos, but I don't think there's a will creating it, because I don't believe that any god would create a world with certain things in it.
Okay, but now before we get to that...
Good.
Before we get...
Oh, good.
Before we get to that,
Yep.
I'll say to you that if we're saying before the universe there was a cause, and that inside the universe you'd accept that, because science, by the way, if we're saying science exists within the universe, we're accepting that patterns exist within the universe. Alright, so we're looking at the universe within, like, we've seen the patterns in the universe, right? If there are patterns and laws, you'd accept there are laws of physics, yeah?
Yes.
So my question...
To the point of further human understanding of the laws of physics.
Good, accepted. Alright, so we accept that there are laws of physics, yeah?
As they stand.
And would you accept that these laws of physics are complicated, or would you say that they are simple?
Oh, incredibly simple.
Really?
Yes.
How do you define complexity and simplicity?
I was was just winding you up. Very cool.
All right, nice one. Okay, good. I don't know how to go into that. So if it's complex, if we accept that there are laws of physics which are complex, my question is, how did they come into being? And you accept that there's no such thing as random generations. You said that just now.
No, there is random, but I don't think it's controlled by a will.
Okay, let's move aside the idea of a will now.
Okay.
I'm asking the question: is the cause intelligent or non-intelligent?
Non-intelligent.
Okay, so my question.
There is no intelligent design.
So my question to you is: how could you have a complex universe without intelligence behind it?
Because evolution.
But you can't have evolution.
Evolution feeds out dumbness.
True, if you accept. But if evolution is something that we look at in the biological realm, yeah?
And behavioural.
Okay, accept it.
Evolution is biological, behavioural, sexual, reproduction. It's
Good.
not just that biological.
Right. So if it's something that we see on a level which is biological, here we're talking about the inanimate. So this is not, we haven't reached the abiogenesis yet.
No, yeah.
We haven't reached where chemistry becomes biology. We're still at the stage where it's actually inanimate objects, celestial bodies, yeah, which don't have. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, but
So my question is, how did the laws of physics come to be in that context? How is it that we have complex laws of physics in the context of the universe? What's your explanation for it? That's my question.
Fairies.
Fairies. Okay, good. Okay, fairies. Is it more than one fairy or one fairy?
It's just one fairy.
One fairy. Okay,
No,
perfect.
it's not fairies. I don't know the answer to that, but leave it to you.
No, this is what I'm saying.
Leave it to you.
How do you know I don't know?
You don't understand. You don't know the answer.
How do you know that I don't know?
One thing is, just because we don't understand and we can't find an answer, doesn't mean other people know.
Exactly, and that's
So
what I'm saying. Just because I can't answer his question does not make him right.
No, you're imposing that he doesn't know because you don't know. So maybe if you listen to him, you might know.
Yeah, okay. I'm imposing that he doesn't know. He's imposing that I don't know. Neither of us know. We're arguing. No one knows. We're arguing from perspective where no one knows.
He hasn't imposed that you don't know. You've admitted that
Yes, he
yourself.
did.
No, you've admitted that yourself.
Oh, okay, yes. And he should admit that he doesn't know.
No, he's about to admit
Is
whether
he?
he knows or
Oh,
doesn't.
are you about to admit you don't know? Please do. He says. He says.
No, I know.
Oh.
I know.
We know.
Okay, that's a good question though. What is knowledge? What is it to know?
That wasn't what he was asking.
No.
It's a really good
Epistemologically,
question. What he's made your question into.
how do we know what is?
No. Back to the original.
Go on.
I am admitting that I do not know.
All right.
What makes you so sure that you know?
Okay, so this is a question of knowledge, yeah?
Yeah.
So of really epistemology. So I would say.
Don't start me on that. I'm doing my research on this.
I know.
Have another. Oh. More microphones for the email.
They can hear you, trust me, it's good.
No, they can. It's good.
Oh, they can hear you. That's good. Thank you.
What was I saying? All right. So what I was saying to
I
you,
don't know. I got lost 10 minutes ago.
knowledge, right? How do you know that you exist?
I don't. I don't actually know that I'm not a dream.
Going back to idealism.
I don't know that I'm not a construct of someone else's mind.
But even if you were a dream,
Yeah.
you'd be either someone's dream or you'd be a dream, right? So that would prove existence because, do you know?
See, if I was someone's dream, that would prove existence of higher being more than if I was not. Yeah.
At any rate, if you were a dream, right? If you were a dream, you know how Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." This it's called the cogito, yeah. This cogito was attacked by Nietzsche, who wrote Beyond Good and Evil. I think he wrote in it that how can you presuppose I? He said you can't presuppose I because I is obviously it's a pronoun, it's a personal pronoun. You can't presuppose it. So I'd agree with that criticism. It's a strong criticism from Nietzsche. That's why postmodernism is quite a powerful.
I don't know what his criticism was.
Alright.
I feel like every time I start getting a handle on this conversation, you shift it. Is this how we debate?
Sorry.
Cool now. What was your criticism?
No. I'm coming to
Okay.
how do we know things?
As soon as you clarify, I will come back.
All right.
But until that point,
So
I can't come back with anything.
I'm saying
decent.
to you this, yeah. So you're talking about how do we know?
Yeah.
Because this question of knowledge, yeah. I put this to you.
Okay.
Because we've said the problem. Now let's see the solution. The solution is this. I believe that the reasoning we as human beings employ to know things and not know things is probabilistic. So in other words, I know that I'm. You're funny, man.
Sorry.
All right.
What?
It's probabilistic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the sense that I have epistemic probabilistic reasoning, yeah, that happens on a daily basis. For instance, I'm holding this cup, yeah, which is whatever, yeah. I know, I can say with certainty, I'm holding this cup. I'm here and I'm holding this cup. Why? Because for me, epistemologically, what I class as knowledge is not necessarily that which reaches the 100% threshold. So for me, even though there might be a 1% chance that, okay, I might not be here and I might be asleep right now, but I'll say, probabilistically, based on my experience and based on the fact that I trust my senses, that's my presupposition, I'll say, okay, I'm here and I'm holding this. Do you get it? So,
that's a good point.
So based on the evidences, I put all those evidences together to come with this kind of aggregate probability, and that happens subconsciously with us on a daily basis, and then I say, okay, this is or this isn't. So in the context of the universe, me personally, I do the same thing. So I look at the law and order of the universe, if you will, yeah, or the laws of physics, the complicated laws of physics that we both agree exist within the concepts of the universe, and then I say, okay, probabilistically, looking at the options that we have, you can either have that this came from randomness, which we both reject, or it came from nothing, which we both reject, or that it was a chain of X amount of universes which we don't have any evidence for, or that it was caused into being by an intelligence. So would you say that that is the most appropriate of the four options?
Evidence for that is?
The evidence is the cause itself. So I believe in causation.
Yeah, but you just said there's no evidence that there was, but the cause. I don't know what your evidence is.
So
I understand that you see that and you're basing it on
cause and effect, right? So look, I don't need to see the fact that someone, you see that horse's head there? I don't
do you
need
see
to
that horse's head again?
I'm just using, I don't know, it's quite interesting. It's the green thing in the middle there.
Cool.
It's a horse's head in Marble Arch, okay?
And it was created by a man.
Or maybe many men.
Many men.
Maybe women.
Maybe,
you know.
maybe women. That'd be nice if we could make that, wouldn't it?
No. It's usually engineering and architecture is dominated by men, so it's probably men.
But is it beautiful? It's probably made by women.
That one, I don't think so. I agree with that. That's probably. So I don't need to see that the construction, the architecture take place.
Made
right.
by a human.
To know that it's made by a designer. Or an intelligence.
Thank you.
Right. Now the same thing I would say applies with the
Do you
universe.
think it was a human designer or an animal?
Well, probably a human one.
Well, okay, so human. I was right. I'm good.
I like that.
Well, I said probably.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just probably. This is all probably.
Okay. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
All right. So in the context of the universe.
I believe that everything around here, the buildings, the vehicles, the road, was made by humans. I believe they were made by a designer.
But why?
Because of what he said, epistemological behaviour.
No. She's talking about animate things. She's talking about like cameras.
I believe all that.
Yeah, fine.
Because there was complication, right?
No,
it had to be put together.
I don't believe it's because of complication. I think that's quite simple.
What, making the horse head?
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
I do engineering. It's not simple. I promise you it's not simple.
In the realm of the universe and the creation of the universe, making that horse's head was probably as easy as baking a cake.
Compared to who?
But coming back.
The creation of the universe.
Coming back. Do you accept this? What I'm saying to you?
I don't know what you're saying.
I'm saying, okay, you got the universe. This is the universe, okay? We accept that it's got complicated laws existing within it, laws of physics, right? We accept that it has a cause.
I believe that humans have made those laws of physics.
So you believe it's a simple proposition?
I believe we are trying at all times to understand the world around us, and that we find new things all the time. Hadron Collider, boson, smallest particle known to man. We're finding out things all the time. So how can we stand here and argue a definitive answer when we know we're finding out things all the time?
I think it's a good point, because you're saying that, because what you're saying is that the nature of the fact that science is changing indicates that we don't have all the answers in terms of laws. All right.
We know that.
But what I'm saying, on a basic teleological level, and on a fine-tuning level, I'm saying that on a basic level, that the universe exists, and whether it be through aesthetic judgment or through a complicated process of science, or whatever it may be, we can appreciate the fact that the universe exists with this complicated mechanisms attached to it, or these complicated mechanisms attached to it.
And it was someone who designed it.
Yeah.
Why has he made it so that trees reproduce? Why wouldn't he just continue designing it?
Well, how do you know that that's not part of his design?
No, that's what I'm asking. Why would he? So we're finding out things. We're saying these trees reproduce asexually, but through pollination or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Why would he design it so things reproduce when he could just create things however he wanted?
Well, this question, so I would say to you, look, for you to understand that, you'd have to know from, like, for example, I'm coming obviously from an Islamic perspective, the attributes of God from an Islamic perspective. So from an Islamic perspective, the attributes of God is that we believe He's one, that He's all powerful, that He's all knowledgeable, that He's all knowing, and that He's a sustainer, maintainer, etc. Okay, so that is what we would consider God.
So
He maintains
creates,
things.
But maintains,
Yeah.
So He would allow that tree to.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense,
So
yeah.
from that angle, and that's also deducible, I would say, like logically.
Yeah.
So if God created the universe, and the universe is contingent upon His existence, therefore everything within the universe is automatically in default at the will of God, or at the will of that entity that exists outside or is transcendent of the universe. Yeah, so it's not inside of it.
Also, if you can use the same argument, say there was trees just there, someone would be like, why didn't God create it in a way where it replicated? And then you see, there's no criteria where you end.
Would we do that if He created us to not think about science? Like if there was no science?
No, but the fact that we're here now is what we can speak about. We can't speak about things that are potentials that don't exist. It doesn't make sense. We can only speak about the potential that matters to us, which is what we're doing.
But moving on, so here, this is the thesis talk. I want you guys to know the Islamic thesis, yeah? So the Islamic thesis is this. So we will say that instead of believing, because in the Quran it says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. And this is why I use those 3 or 4 different criteria, because it's a Quranic criteria. It says, were they created from nothing, or were they themselves the creators of themselves? So, in other words, the third thing is not mentioned because it's meant to be like understood within the context. So, looking at the possibilities of how we came into existence, we've already ruled out that we can't come from nothing, and that we couldn't be self-creators, because for us to be self-creators or for the universe to self-create, it would have to exist and not exist at the same time, which would be a logical contradiction. So, of these options, we've concluded that that the idea of a creator being the initiator of such a process and the maintainer of it is the most.
I haven't agreed, but you're saying.
Yeah. So from that's the first point. So we will say that after that's been established, now the question is, what's the purpose of life? And I want to put it this way. Yeah, I want to put it this way, right? I put it this way. I've been talking to you the whole time.
No, I know.
Look.
Me as well.
Okay, look. Look, I've used this once in speakers. Let me use it again, yeah? I've said that, imagine one day, yeah? You're on a, have you heard me say this before? You're on a train, yeah, you're on a train, you wake up, you find yourself like on a train, or on a boat, or on a ship, or on a plane, or any vehicle. And you wake up, you see yourself and it's moving, yeah? What's the first question you're gonna ask yourself? What? Yeah, why am I here? Yeah, where am I going? Would you agree with?
Why am I here? Yeah.
Why am I here and where am I going? Why would you come to that conclusion though? Why would those be the first questions you'd ask?
No, I can't answer that. I was going to make a joke, but I'm doing that on film. No, I don't know. Go on. Why?
So these questions are, I would say, I would argue that they're intuitive. Yeah. So if we accept that there is time, and we're moving forward with time, and that there will be an end to our journey. Yeah. So the questions we have to ask in life are the same questions as we would ask if we were in that vehicle. In that context, we say, why am I here and where are we going? What am I doing here? Where did I come from? That's another question you might.
But do we have to know the answers now?
Well, that's the thing. Right.
There doesn't need to be an answer.
So if you woke up on the train, and you woke up, and you started asking the passengers around you, where did I come from? Where am I here? Where am I going? And then the passenger on the train says, listen, now listen, you don't need to know the answer, just live for the present. Just enjoy yourself on the train. What would you say to them?
Maybe we should. Maybe as humans that would be a better way to live than
maybe,
to be constantly
but then on the other hand,
who has the right answer as to why we're here?
I would argue that the thing that distinguishes or demarcates human being from the rest of this, the animals and inanimate creatures is the ability to reason and the ability to.
Dolphins reason.
No, the ability. Let me just be quick, specific about this.
Monkeys reason.
The ability to ask why. I would argue that. I don't think on that sentient level.
Dolphins ask why because they can commit suicide.
Pardon?
Yeah.
I don't think. Look.
Okay, but dolphins ask why.
How do you know they ask why? How do you know they ask
why?
why?
Suicide if they're not thinking, why am I here?
There might be some biological reason for that.
No, because dolphins are the only animal that have to choose to breathe.
I think from an
so
atheistic.
they're the only animal that can actually choose to stop breathing.
From an atheistic, biological, even evolutionary perspective, an evolutionist would answer that question, or a biologist would answer it, that they commit suicide because there is a functionality for that in the context of the greater food chain. And that they've identified that.
It's only dolphins in captivity, so they're miserable. So they are asking, why? Why am I here? This is fruitless. I've had enough. They stop breathing, they die.
I know.
Okay, but
maybe you misunderstood. He meant that. Sorry. No. So I think we actually can ask the question: am I conscious? And we know that we're conscious. Why are we conscious?
We don't know we're conscious. We don't know that you're conscious.
So you don't know you're conscious.
You don't know you're conscious right now. You have no evidentiary proof that you're conscious.
She's right, you know.
I do.
Let me tell you why she's.
You know you're conscious
No.
right now, and you have
But
no evidentiary proof
she's
that
right.
you're not.
That's right. I like that. That's a good point, and you made a good point as well. No, I'm not trying to. You did. No, I like the consciousness point. I do like it, but you made a good point as well. There is no third-person evidence to suggest that we're conscious. The only example, the only reasoning we have is first-person subjective experience. That's the only reason we can. You can't put consciousness under a microscope. There's a long discussion on that. I made a video on this. Anyways, what I was saying was.
How do you get out of this when you're half done? I just concede.
Pardon?
I just go. Is that I just go? You're right.
No, you have to do the shahada first. That's what that is.
I concede.
It's like,
Okay.
non-Muslim, leave Muslim.
Look, so what I was saying was, right? So the thesis is as follows, right? I haven't got into like the full Islamic thesis yet. So we're saying that God created the universe, etc. Okay, he maintains it, sustains it, he's powerful, he's got that capacity. Moreover, we would say that now, those questions, if we were to ask them, or that there was a need...
Sorry for interrupting like that.
Oh my word. There was a need to ask...
Big proper house.
That's right.
Do I get to kick you out at some point?
Anyways. As I was saying, right? What was I saying? Yeah, so the question, so we say that there were intermediaries, yeah? God communicated with the human beings through prophets.
Okay.
So, you know, Old Testament prophets that I'm sure you've heard of, like Abraham, Moses, Jesus, etc. For us, we believe he's a prophet. All right, so all of those prophets came with that message. To believe in one God, to worship one God, and to do good works. And they also came with some kind of evidence to prove that they were prophets. Okay? And so we also believe that human being was created with an intuitive belief, or you could say an intrinsic, predisposition to believing in God. So what prophets and messengers came to do was to reinforce that belief, or to remind human being of the original creation and the original purpose. So all of those prophets came before time with the message and the miracle, or the message and the evidence, like Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, to tell people who they are, and basically to worship in God, in a nutshell.
I may not get out of here in one piece, but how old is your religion?
So Islam, there's two Islams, yeah?
How old is your religion?
All right, so Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, from his coming onwards, about 1,440 years, yeah? But when we're talking about Islam, what we consider Islam is, because Islam means, it comes from the Arabic word Istislam. Istislam means submission. So it was interesting, I always use this point. Rousseau is a French philosopher, he says, man is born free.
I love it when you explain stuff to me, yeah. Are you explaining to the camera? No, that's fine. Do you not know? I know.
She knows who Rousseau is, but I'm just making sure that he knows.
I don't know.
I'm just making sure that he knows, you know? Oh, yeah.
As long as you know.
He said, man is born free. He didn't know who Rousseau was. Man is born free, but everywhere in chains, yeah? We would say that everyone, and the Quran says this, that everyone is enslaved to something.
Yeah. How old is Islam?
1,440 years.
1,400 years.
Yeah.
Did humans have questions before that?
Yeah.
So could the prophets not have come from the questions?
They came before that as well.
They came before.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
religion.
So
okay,
right. So
Jesus was 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000. Yeah.
Good,
Right.
Good,
so we believe in all that. So long as humans have been on the earth, we believe there have been prophets.
Do you?
Yeah. That's what we believe.
And that is written where?
Pardon?
Where's that written?
In the Quran.
Okay.
Yeah. It's mentioned in the
And then how
Quran.
did that work?
Yeah, you can take it. So we believe that all of the prophets came
Since the beginning of human beings?
Since human-
cavemen?
yeah,
Or just
and
Homo
beyond.
sapien? Like when
Homo
you were-
sapiens. Homo sapiens.
Okay, so once
Yes.
we'd evolved to the point
So
where
no.
we had
So what the
understanding-
Islamic narrative is so long as there has been human civilization and human beings, there has been messengers and prophets to tell people about the message of Islam. Okay? So that extends backwards. So Abraham was a Mesopotamian prophet. And from history, we know that Mesopotamia was one of the first civilizations. Yeah? Yeah, we do.
We do. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So long as there's been human beings,
Civilizations, not human beings.
what we say human beings, we overextend it. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, she's mad.
So do you get it? So that all of those prophets came with that fundamental message.
I think that human beings just evolved to the point where they had to try to find a reason for being because their level of intelligence outgrew their biological need.
If we take that as
We
a
didn't need to be this smart. We need to eat and have sex and reproduce and sorry, I didn't say sex on camera. Reproduce and we.
no, it's all right. That's not a thing. It's not a thing.
It's been muted out.
But our brains evolved beyond that. And so that would be where we start going and have an existential crisis, and suddenly there's a religion, there's questions, why am I here? Ryan just asked why his brain's never evolved past I'm here to have reproduce and to eat and to chase things around.
I would say that presupposes two things, and both of them are fallacious. Actually, it's fallacious reasoning. Let me tell you why.
Fallacious.
Yeah, fallacy. Because even if that was the case, let's go with that argument. All right. So if I say the argument is that okay, human being has an existential crisis, that's the
Their
origin.
brain capacity has become too much. for
Yeah.
their
Therefore, that is
brain.
the origin of religion. Yeah. I'll say then okay, then if you're saying therefore religion is wrong, that's the genetic fallacy.
Genetic fallacy.
Yeah. So genetic fallacy is to say that something is wrong as a result of it because of its origins,
Okay.
which is false reasoning. Yeah.
So religion has come from human beings. Well, we can't deny religion because that would be a genetic.
No. If we're saying that human being has an existential crisis, and therefore a human being has
Creates religion.
not creates religion, has felt the need to ask questions like why and whatever, like why am I here and all these things, and therefore these questions are social constructs, if you
It
will.
doesn't mean that God doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, I agree there.
Yeah. So my point to you is this: is that
Bad argument.
right? That's all right.
Are we allowed to like, honestly, go away.
No, it's okay. So the point I'm trying to kind of get to is this. So Islam, as a thesis, the final prophet is Prophet Muhammad. Now, the main difference between Prophet Muhammad and all the other prophets that came before him in our thesis.
Did you just make that Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah, I shouldn't have actually done that. I shouldn't have done that, should I?
Not respectful to your religion.
Fair enough, I might get refuted online now. There's gonna be some videos. Some guy with a knife or a gun, you know, and a black flag behind him. So at this cup here, yeah. So this man is talking about, you know, Prophet Muhammad in this cup. Anyways,
We can cut.
what I was gonna say was that the main point of demarcation is that we would say that Prophet Muhammad, he was a universal messenger, which is mentioned in chapter 7, verse 158 of the Quran. So he was sent for all of humankind. Whereas all of the other prophets were sent for their localities and their times. That's the time. And even in the Bible, if you look at like Matthew and Mark, Jesus is meant to have said,
Why all round that area?
why?
Why there? Why not in Europe or the
So we would say,
Americas?
we would accept that there were prophets that were probably sent to these areas. We believe in black prophets. So Moses for us is a black man. Yeah? We have Luqman, who's a black man. For us, there's a hadith that says 124,000 prophets. So 124,000 to represent the scope of humanity aforetime. So there were prophets that were, like for example, depictions of Jesus are kind of white. We have conflicting narrations. Some say that he's kind of brown, darker than me, and some say that he is kind of like white. Prophet Muhammad was maybe this man's color. Yeah. So the thing is, really and truly, we have a range of different. In the Islamic narrative, we have a range of different prophets, but all of them came from a variety of different countries and different places. Prophet Muhammad represents the last of those. He's not white and he's not black. He's somewhere in between, if you think about it. So white is probably maybe because to kind of represent as much of humanity as possible, possibly, from a racial perspective. But you could also say that he was centrally located, because Saudi Arabia, if you look at a world map, is kind of centrally located. So the expansion of Islam westward and eastward